You're getting paid to look at titties.
Right.
Good job, Chris Wood.
Good job, Chris Wood. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxson here with you, along with, of course, my brother Aaron.
What's up?
Hello, and Archie Mitchell.
Woo! What's up, everybody?
How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Same here.
The Custom King, the Junior Booker Man, the podcast Grand Puma, we're all here.
I like that.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Everybody knows I'm a wrestling nerd. Obviously, we do a wrestling podcast. I'm excited as shit right now, guys, because, and Aaron knows this. I don't know if Archie knows this. Some of the listeners might know. Regardless of what people want to say to me when I tell them this and they want to poo-poo it or whatever, that's fine. One of my favorite promotions ever in the history of ever is Global. I love Global. GWF.
Oh, definitely.
The Texas Global. So I found a guy who was willing to sell me. I got like 15 gigs of Global to watch now. And I don't know. I'm like geeking out, nerding out. I'm like, I'm going to watch Global. And in order, it's got like the whole light title tournament, the tag title tournament, a lot of the episodes. I don't know. I'm geeking out about it. I'm like, yeah.
Do you have the infamous bungee cord match?
I don't know yet. I haven't gone through everything yet. It's enough stuff where I'm having to download it to my computer and put it onto the other external hard drive that I put some of our audio files on. So it won't fill up my computer.
You know, Orange Hat will be on there.
Mm-hmm. Whenever somebody takes a chair shot.
Orange Hat.
You may want to do a watch along for that. I'm sure there are other fans of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but I'm really excited about that. So my wrestling nerd ass will be digging into that this week. But other than that,
I'd be excited too.
Other than that, folks, this is it's a big week in the We Can't Wrestle podcast, as it is every single year. It is the 2021 Hall of Shame, and once again this year, Archie, I forgot to buy a kazoo.
Damn it!
I know. I got to like 2 days before the show, and Aaron, I don't even know if I ever told you this, but my plan last year was I was going to buy a kazoo. And do you think I could find one anywhere in town? No. I was going to buy a kazoo, and I was going to play I was going to do the WWE Hall of Fame music on a kazoo. And I forgot about it this year, but anyway.
But guys, look out there in the crowd. Everybody, it's all assembled out here for the Hall of Shame. It's a who's that of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Look out in the crowd. There's Mantar.
He's hoping to get in.
May Young. There's the Goon over there.
Yeah, speaking of GWF, the Goon. Bill Irwin.
Over there, there's Bobby Walker. Joe Gomez is out there. It's the who's that of professional wrestling, and they're all here.
Now, is Joe Gomez hanging out with his brother Jim Gomez, or are they separated?
Joe's just waiting for the show to end so he can start cleaning up.
Okay.
The popcorn boxes. And so those of you, because our listenership has gone up considerably the past year, so those of you who have not ever heard the Hall of Shame, new listeners, you got to go back and you got to go back in the archives and listen to the first two, because it's comedy gold, Jerry. It's gold.
It's gold.
I'll tell you. But let me read off the list of past inductions into the We Can't Wrestle Hall of Shame. It's the worst of the worst in professional wrestling, at least to the opinion of the person that inducts them. First, right off the bat, first inductee ever was the Ding Dongs.
Good inductee.
Blood Runs Cold was inducted. Aaron inducted the Public Enemy. He also inducted Jimmy Valiant. I know one of the things I inducted was using somber tones during a staged angle. The Randy Orton using Eddie Guerrero in his feud with Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
PN News. The Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view, which we actually reviewed at one time on the show.
You want to play 21? I got 22.
Yeah. Good on you, Jake. The Vince McMahon Stephanie angle from 2004. The Black Scorpion, Vince Russo. The New Rockers. RoboCop in WCW.
Yeah.
ICP. Dave Sullivan. Aaron inducted the entire promotion of TNA. Brutus Beefcake's gimmicks.
That was me.
All of them. No, that was David Gold, actually.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
In one fell swoop.
WWF Niagara Falls. Judy Bagwell. That was a fun one last year. Kurt Angle losing his last match to Baron Corbin. That was me.
That was Nate, yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin's heel run. The Bone Zone match. Mordecai.
I think it's funny that in our little universe it's called the Bone Zone match. Like you didn't even hesitate. Usually the Bone Zone.
The Dungeon of Doom. I explained to Archie before we went on the air. I almost inducted the Yeti this year, but then I was like, well, shit, Aaron inducted the Dungeon of Doom in one foul swoop.
Yeah.
I was telling Nate, I don't think we mentioned the Yeti.
We might not have.
I think we just mentioned all of the Dungeon of Doom.
The corporate ministry storyline. The Great Khali. Saudi Arabia pay-per-views.
I think that was me.
That was you. The Chamber of Horrors match. Rocco the Puppet.
That was me too, I think. Oh, that was Aaron?
No, I think that was me.
I inducted the entire promotion of XPW.
Yep.
The Val Venus Choppy Your Pee angle. Zack Ryder.
That was me.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it was.
That was definitely me.
Virgil. Max Payne. And the Katie Vick angle. So there you go. That is so far all of the inductees into the We Can't Wrestle Podcast Hall of Shame. And because this is Aaron's baby, this is his favorite show to do every single year.
Every year.
Of course, we will let Aaron start with his first inductee this year in the We Can't Wrestle Hall of Shame. The worst of the worst, ladies and gentlemen.
Aaron loves this show so much that in January he'll be saying, isn't the Hall of Shame coming up? And Nate's like, it's July. It's nowhere. It's not even time yet.
It's not yet. The snow is just falling. It's not close yet.
Okay. So, the first person to get indicted into the Hall of Shame is going to be Jim Herd. And before, my favorite thing is to say who's indicting them. It's giving the speech to bring them out. So out comes the ding dongs.
Hall of Shamers themselves.
Yes, they're going to give us this speech about Jim Herd. Okay. This moron ran WCW from 1988 to 1992 and pretty much ran that fucker into the ground. He took one of the most watched programs in America and turned it into one stupid-ass joke. Notable things that he fucked up. He broke up the Midnight Express and ran them off.
Yep.
You guys can speak to any of these if you want. Mm-hmm. He believed the Desperados would work. They were walking around looking for Stan Hansen. There was Deadeye Dick and Black Bart and some other guy. And this was so atrocious that Stan Hansen left and went back to Japan.
I was about to say that. Stan Hansen was like, they were like, these are our plans for you, Stan. I'm going to breach my contract then.
And leave. He left the country. It was so bad. He also brought in RoboCop.
Also an inductee.
Yeah.
Yes.
He ran off the Road Warriors. Jim Herd also pitched the Hunchbacks.
Think about this, folks. This guy single-handedly ran off the Road Warriors and the Midnight Express.
Yep.
Two of the best tag teams of their era were like, fuck this. I don't want to work here. I mean, you expect it out of Jim Cornette. Let's be honest.
Right.
Jim Cornette. But, yeah. God.
Poor
And to
Bobby just
replace
sitting there. Poor Bobby was just sitting there like, where the fuck did everybody go?
And to replace these teams, Jim Herd pitched the Hunchbacks,
Yep.
who were impossible to beat because you couldn't pin their shoulders to the mat
Yep.
because they were hunchbacked.
Oh, God.
Yes. He also gave us Big Josh, PN News, and then wanted to turn Ric Flair into Spartacus.
Spartacus.
And
He
then,
also gave us Black Blood,
yes,
hailing from a small town in France.
a little town in France.
Yes.
And then you look at the camera and go, Black Blood. Who Black Blood was?
I think it was Brian Clark.
No.
Oh no, Black Blood was Billy Jack Haynes.
Billy Jack Haynes.
Yeah, and Brian Clark was somebody though, wasn't he?
Yeah. He had
Shit,
some
I don't-
good ass.
Anyway, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Brian Clark should be in the fucking Hall of Shame, but
Oh, God.
everybody can get there next year. And then his crowning achievement was not only did he run off the Midnight Express and the Road Warriors, he also ran off Ric Flair, and not just Ric Flair, but Ric Flair with their belt.
Yep. Yep.
So then the last thing that he did that was notable was he gave us one of the worst pay-per-views in the history of pay-per-views, the Great American Bash 1991. And Luger and Wyndham had to wrestle this match for the WCW Championship, which wasn't even a real belt. Well, it was a real belt, but it was one of Dusty Rhodes' old tag team titles with WCW Champion taped onto it.
Damn.
That's some bottom level indie shit right there, Jim Herd.
If anything, Jim Herd should be like an all around first inductee.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
He was an oversight.
Yeah. Jim Herd should. They say it about Flair in the Hall of Fame. Jim Herd should have his own wing. In
Yeah.
the Hall of Shame.
Yeah.
For all of those things that I just
I was gonna say with all of his terrible decisions plastered all over the wall
Right.
to remind him. Is he dead?
No, he's still alive.
The fact that he outlived Jim Crockett is bullshit.
Right. I think he's managing a Domino's pizza somewhere.
Well, he was a pizza executive. That was his wheelhouse.
Yep.
Like I've always said this. I've always said like I don't want to be like outwardly rude to people, but I try to be somewhat of a prick because I don't want to get cancer. And you ever hear like people are never like, "Oh, I'm glad that guy got cancer." They're always like, "Oh, he got cancer. He was such a nice guy." Like Jim Herd was an asshole, and he's still alive. So just being a prick, you stick around. You know what I mean?
You hang in there.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing I ever heard about Jim Cornette, regardless of what Aaron just said, because those are all dumb, was when he wanted to renegotiate the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette's contracts.
Mhm.
And he ended up offering Jim more than Jim wanted. Jim's like, don't worry about paying me, just pay Bobby and Stan. And he ended up telling Jim, you know what, I'll give you $225,000 if you stay, but I'm only giving Stan Stan and Bobby $100 each. And Jim's like, I don't want $225,000. Take that away from me and give it to Bobby and Stan. And he's like, nope, I won't do it. And Jim Cornette was like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here?
He said Bobby and Stan were terrible.
Yeah, they didn't draw money.
I can't do anything but go.
What does the pizza man know about drawing money?
The decision, okay, WCW was at its heart. The biggest problem probably was the fact that even though people always say Ted Turner had its back and he was a wrestling guy and he liked wrestling, at the end of the day, it suffered from kind of the same thing WWE suffers from today. It's a corporate view of pro wrestling. So they would make that mistake where they would put these non-wrestling guys that you would, Aaron and I are in retail, these guys that you would expect to come walking through your door as like your douchebag regional vice president or something, and they're on fucking Nitro or WCW Saturday Night or whatever, like, that Dr. Harvey Schiller guy.
Right.
And
Harvey Schiller, don't knock Harvey Schiller. That dude was smart to the business because he's still involved in it. But what? So I won't knock Harvey Schiller because Harvey Schiller was about money. I'm talking like Jim Herd, Kit Fry, Bill Shaw. Those guys had no fucking idea what they were doing. Harvey Schiller was smart.
Aaron's right. And what I never got about these guys, okay, you put these guys in a position of power, right?
Yeah.
And then they assign a championship committee and a booking committee. And
just let the wrestling people do their job.
And that's what Schiller and see. And I don't want to keep bringing up Harvey Schiller. Schiller gave, like, he hired Eric, and he basically said, like, he promoted Eric. And I know people are going to say whatever they want to say about Eric, but he was smart enough to go, "Hey, I put this guy in this spot to run this.
I'm going to let him run it,
and let him run it." And he watched his budget. You know what I mean?
And actually, I agree with you on Schiller because I'm realizing now as we're talking about it, I didn't mean, but I said Dr. Harvey Schiller, and your points about him are valid. Who I was actually thinking about was that Bob Dew guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob Dew. He was an idiot. But yeah, Schiller was the one guy that they put, like,
because I started thinking about it, and Schiller was the guy that gave Bischoff his suspension on TV and everything. And you're right. Like you could tell he knew what he was doing. And yeah,
Schiller was in charge. I mean, Bischoff was in charge, but Schiller was like the guy,
overseer, right?
During the entire fucking Monday Night War era. So Schiller.
Well, all right, that's enough talking about good things. This is about bad things.
Yeah. Let's shit on somebody.
Get your fucking thing of Jiffy Pop and move along there, Jim Herd. Welcome to the Hall of Shame.
A pie, you fuck.
Yeah, I'll take a pepperoni and sausage large.
All right, Archie.
Yes.
I'll let you go next, sir.
All right. My first inductee will be being inducted by Aleister Black, because of this new Malachi Black character he has with the funny eye purple paint on it, whatever it is. And he is inducting the eye for an eye match between Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio. Now, the match itself was not bad. They actually wrestled a pretty decent match. But when Rey Mysterio was forced to hold a fake eye out of his head and dangle it like it came out of his head, and then walk around with a patch under his mask for the last year, it's stupidity for the sake of stupidity that nobody's really going along with.
And the first thing that I thought, two things that I thought. The first thing I thought when I watched it was that looks like something you'd buy at Spirit Halloween,
right?
And then the second thing I thought was, I mean, I know there are probably a lot of modern wrestling fans that may not have even ever seen this match, but there was actually a match where a guy's eyeball did come out.
Yep.
And it was Vader. And it was in the Final Four in February of 1997.
Yep.
And by the way...
what about when Stan Hansen popped Vader's eye out?
Yeah, I guess I'm just talking about... No, I was talking about the Fatal 4-Way with... But... And that's one too, but I was just going with American and WWF wrestling television. When your eye comes out of your socket, there's a lot of blood, and
blood. There's a couple of wires or whatever you want to call them, veins or whatever. It's still connected to you. It's not in your hand, unless Seth cut it off without us knowing.
Right.
And I know.
Didn't they have like Seth puke or something?
Yeah. But this is the thing that really bothered me, and I know I'm going to sound like an idiot or be like, Archie, you're too gruesome. That eye wouldn't have been that white if it would have popped out of Rey Mysterio's head. It would have been covered in blood and a bunch of other bodily fluids. it wouldn't have been pure white. That's all I'm saying.
And yes, and they would say to you, well, we're PG rated and blah blah blah. Okay, so my point to that, exactamundo. If you can't do it, don't do it.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's just like the stunts, like when Jericho did his little stunt earlier this year and landed on the cardboard and the styrofoam or whatever. And it's like, well, what would you want me to do? Land on a steel grate? No, I'd want you to not fucking do it. If you're not going to do it, don't do it for the sake of doing it.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Yes.
It was bad on many levels. The whole storyline kept going and going. And I know this was what they thought was going to be the end result, but then we had another 6 months of the storyline after.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be part of the induction if you're inducting the eye for an eye match. But I would say I'd go as far as to say you could induct the whole feud because
don't just be quiet.
Okay,
that's later.
Okay, all right. Because I am a fan of Seth. I am a fan of Seth Rollins going back to Tyler Black. I am a fan of Rey Mysterio Jr. Yes. I hated their fucking rivalry. But anyway.
Rivalry was bad.
All right.
All right, Nate, you're next on the docket.
All right, I'm not inducting this clown shoe really very much based on wrestling, but I will say this. He was I don't normally attack workers personally, but I'm going to attack this guy personally. Like I'll say Kenny Omega sucks in the ring. I don't like to watch him perform, but I'm not going to attack him as a person. I don't know him as a person.
Right.
But this guy I'm going to. First of all, he was a shitty wrestler. He looked terrible. He had a terrible gimmick. He had terrible hair, an awful mustache. I never saw him have a good match. And he's a piece of shit. I am inducting the one, the only, Buck Zumhoff into the We Can't Wrestle Hall of Shame.
Welcome, Buck.
Buck. Don't welcome Buck.
Now, hold on. Aaron, let's talk first about Buck as a wrestler, because I'm actually going to read verbatim because I want to do this and slander him. Well, it's not slander because he fucking did it. I want to shit all over Buck Zumhoff, but I want to do it properly. Once we shit on him as a wrestler, I'm going to read from Wikipedia all the dirty shit he did and why he belongs in the place in life that he is now. Terrible hair, terrible mustache.
So we're going to shit on him as a worker? First?
Yes, let's.
Okay, he's terrible. The only thing that Buck Zumhoff ever did that was impressive to me, and it wasn't even him, it was when Hunter gave him that pedigree. I don't even know if it was on Raw. It might have even been on Superstars. But there's that fucking video of Hunter when he was Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Oh, when he spiked him?
Pedigreeing a guy, and he spikes him. Mm-hmm. That's Buck Zumhoff.
I don't remember. That was because that was on Superstars. It was either Hunter's first or second televised match in the WWF.
Yep. And when I watch it, part of me I think Hunter knew this guy was a piece of shit and fucked him up on purpose. So, good job, Paul.
Archie, anything you have to say about this piece of shit before I run down his?
How about that AWA show that we watched
time
ago? When Tiger Mask comes over and he's got to wrestle Buck Zumhoff.
Yeah,
why would you look at your entire roster and go, hey, let's have Tiger Mask
wrestle Boombox
Zumhoff?
Yeah.
It's like, isn't Billy Robinson ain't available? You know what I mean?
Greg Gagne, for Christ's sake?
Yeah. Greg Gagne.
Where's Davidson? Martino, for Christ's sake.
Like Greg Gagne, say what you want to say about him, but he was decent. Or Jim Brunzell. Jim Brunzell, he can't wrestle fucking Tiger Mask? No. Let's give him that pedophile with the fucking
boombox.
Always, the motherfucker always looked like he got struck by lightning.
Yeah.
You're right.
I could go for hours on Buck Zumhoff.
Well,
let's talk about the shit.
His real name is almost appropriate. His actual name is Eugene Otto Zumhoff.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go.
If that doesn't scream pedophile, living in his mom's basement.
Yeah. Starts here, ladies and gentlemen. Zumhoff was jailed in July 1986 when he was found guilty of sexual misconduct involving a minor. Zumhoff also served 36 months in prison after being convicted of fourth-degree sexual conduct with a minor on January 23rd, 1989.
And we're not talking about grown men that...
No. Zumhoff was again arrested on May 27, 2013 and charged with 12 felony counts of criminal misconduct for sexually abusing his daughter between June 1999 and June 2011, beginning when she was 15 years old. He was convicted on all 12 counts March 5th, 2014. Following the verdict, Zumhoff attempted to flee from the courthouse, but was quickly tackled by court officers and charged with escape from custody. On May 6, 2014, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison on 2 first-degree and 2 third-degree counts of criminal sexual conduct. I hope that he is currently getting plugged in his butthole as we speak. Fuck you, Buck.
I second that.
And we have to get what the equivalent of the Warrior Award is for the Hall of Shame, and that goes to Buck Zumhoff. Like the opposite of a Warrior Award. A Monster Award. What a monster. Fuck that guy.
The Zumhoff.
Yeah, there you go.
Just didn't induct some prick, and we just give him the Zumhoff.
The move off. The zoom off, yeah. So there you go, guys. My first inductee, the piece of shit Buck Zumhoff. I have no qualms about saying that either.
I'm with you on it.
Aaron?
All right. This is kind of funny because you just buried Buck Zumhoff, and I'm going to bury another guy that's already, he's already buried because he's dead. But the next person, he's being inducted by Woody Allen, is Fritz von Erich.
Oh.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to read this. Though Fritz von Erich was a good pro wrestler and a great promoter, but he was a scumbag human being. Fritz put his business and money before the health and well-being of his children. Fritz von Erich, these are some of the things that he did, sold tickets to David von Erich's funeral, turned a blind eye to the deaths and debauchery of not only the wrestlers that worked for him, but his own children. And then, when he started running out of kids, he created a nephew, Lance von Erich.
Shout out to Lance von Erich.
Oh man, these kids I got are dropping like flies. We better get somebody else out there. Oh, I'll just create a cousin. And then, when not all of his kids, but when he was running out and Lance von Erich didn't work, to get more sympathy on the von Erichs and work off their tragedy, he staged his own heart attack. Fritz von Erich was a piece of shit, in my humble opinion. This guy just ignored everything that was going on around him and all of the bad shit that was going on in his locker room because he was making fucking money. And I know it's probably people are going to be, oh, yeah, he was on the 20, what was it, the fucking thing with the 2700 Club or whatever, and
Yeah. Well,
to me, yeah, I don't want to get into that thing, but Fritz von Erich just ignored all of that because he was making money hand over fist. I mean, look at all of the people that just, not even his own kids, but like Gino Hernandez and all of them that just were doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do, and he didn't police it because they were making fucking money.
Yeah.
And people knock Vince and they say this, and this about him. But when Vince sees shit like that, what's he do? He fucking handles it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Very like true. He says, no, that we're not going to let that shit happen. But Fritz saw this shit happening, and you can't tell me that he didn't see it and not do anything about it.
He even to that also, and I am a fan of Texas wrestling, and et cetera, et cetera.
Like
but that's
I'm
not
talking.
that. I know, and that's what I was about to say. That's not what this show's about, and I'm not going to get off on that. But another negative thing, he even tried. Was it Mike that got the infection and almost died, and then Fritz tried to I think it was Mike, the one that was real frail and small. And
no, that was Chris. Chris was the little guy, but Mike got toxic shock syndrome.
Yes,
that's why they brought in Lance. But then Mike was just like right out of the fucking hospital, and they fucking put him back out in the ring, and he was like stumbling all over his words, and his eyes are all glassed over and shit.
Yeah,
Fritz was a piece of shit.
As a human being, I have to agree. Archie, anything on Fritz?
No, I agree with everything Aaron said.
Well, then that means you are next, sir.
All right. I am lumping them all together as a whole because it's not just the one match. No. I am going to be inducting the AEW production team. Why, you ask? Well, the stupid angle in which they shot Jericho's fall from the blood and guts cage match. Let's face it, had that been shot from any other angle, you would not have been able to tell that was cardboard. But they chose to be right on top of it. And the complete idiocracy of that exploding ring death match that they had, and that what was a sparkler event afterwards. The match as a whole was great. Again, like I said about Seth and Ray, Kenny and John Moxley actually did a fantastic job, and Blood and Guts was good too, up until the lackluster ending. So for that, AEW's production team, who was in charge of both those matches, because it wasn't Tony Khan's fault. He doesn't oversee that. He just tells them what to do. It wasn't the wrestler's fault.
He let it happen.
Well, he didn't know it was going to happen. No, you're set up for something, you think something's about to be big, and then
but okay, no, we're not going to defend Tony Khan here, Archie, because
Tony Khan should have said.
Hold on, Aaron. Hold on. We just said not too long ago, if you can't do it, don't do it. So at the end of the day, Tony Khan said, I want this thing with Jericho to happen and for him to come off of a cage. Well, here's how we have to do it, Tony. We're going to have to use toilet paper rolls and cardboard and fucking paper towels, and we might put some juju beads in there or something. Okay, go ahead and do it. Put it on my TV show. So overall, yeah, it was his fault too. He was part of the problem.
It was, but
they should have told Tony Khan, okay, we can make this thing explode. Like, all right. And what Tony Khan should have done, because he has the money to do it, he should have said, make 2 of them. Okay? Double it. Make 2 of them. And then show me what the first one looks like. There's nobody there. You know what I mean? Blow it up a week before. Be like, oh, that looked fucking fantastic.
True. But
so now I know.
To Mr. Khan's credit, because I am an AEW fan, so I don't want to shit on him just. But to his credit, he is still new to all of this and didn't know exactly what had to go into all of that. He's not a Vince McMahon. He's not an Eric Bischoff who's going to sit there and make them roll through it over and over again.
And the people who are teaching him about pro wrestling are Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks.
And Cody Rhodes.
So fucking good luck with that.
Right.
But I'm going to piggyback here. I'm going to skip to my last one because it kind of piggybacks off of the one you just did, Archie.
Okay.
The year of COVID, ladies and gentlemen, in pro wrestling, in all of our lives, it changed things. We had to do the Thunderdome and WrestleMania with no audience and all of that. But probably the worst thing that came out of the COVID era of pro wrestling, and I'm inducting all of them as one big lump.
Oh.
For every wrestling company that did one, everyone they did the cinematic matches. However, the 2 that I indict the most are the AEW Stadium Stampede garbage.
Okay.
Which one?
And both of them.
Okay.
And the WWE Money in the Bank match.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was every bit of every one of those. Like, okay, I know we joked earlier, we say Bone Zone match. I'm not a fan of the Undertaker AJ Styles thing. I don't like camera cuts. I don't like the big stunts with the fire and the blah 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 and showing the Undertaker riding his it takes all the realism out of wrestling. But one thing I will say about that match is at least it was serious.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, Aaron? Like, at least, yes, there were hokey parts, which actually you kind of expect with The Undertaker. He did, shoot flames and shit on Raw. But what I'm saying is at least that match, although still phony, was a fight.
It was a movie. You felt like you were watching a 35, 40-minute movie.
The Stadium Stampede, the Stadium Stampede and the Money in the Bank matches should have said it was like Benny fucking Hill in pro wrestling.
The only one I enjoyed, and I know we're not supposed to talk about things we enjoyed,
Cena,
is the Cena Bray Wyatt one.
It was surreal. That
was surreal, and it made me laugh. Right. You know what I mean? So, like, when I watched it, I wasn't like that one. I wasn't laughing because it was stupid. I was laughing because it was actually funny. And
it actually had good comedy relief with the Cena steel turn and all that.
Yeah, that puppet. Oh, that's good shit, pal.
Yeah,
that was fun, and it made me laugh. But the other ones, like that Swamp Thing match,
that was bad.
And the Bone Zone, and the fucking Money in the Bank, and the fucking
Stadium Stampede
matches.
God,
just terrible.
Yep, it's not anything.
I'm not even saying that Bray Wyatt and Cena was like epic and great or whatever, but that one was what it was. But yeah, the cinematic matches are trash.
I agree.
It's everything
that wrestling isn't supposed to be.
There's a way. Yeah, there's a way to do a cinematic match. And
the Boiler Room Brawl?
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. The Boiler Room Brawl. The cameraman, there was one cameraman, one camera shot. I don't remember if they did more camera cuts with the Big Show Mankind one because I haven't watched that one as many times.
And Mick even said that he regretted that one because they did, and he faked a lot of the stuff. Like he had like they had like the like the sugar glass and fake blood and camera cuts and stuff. Like he didn't like that one as much, and he wasn't shitting on Paul or anything, but he didn't like that one as much. But the Boiler Room Brawl is how you do a match like that.
Mm-hmm.
One camera,
no
commentary, just two guys fighting down a goddamn hall and beating the shit out of each other.
Yep. All right, so there we go. Cinematic matches officially inducted into the Hall of Shame. Aaron, what is your next induction?
All right. Being indicted into the Hall of Fame now, or the Hall of Shame now, by a bag of Doritos is Mark Madden.
Now I have a question. Are the Doritos wearing a Hawaiian shirt?
No.
Oh.
No, but the Hawaiian shirt is covered in Doritos.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. That makes sense.
Here's the video monologue for the Mark Madden induction video. Mark Madden is trash. This human being bag chair got into wrestling the wrestling business in 1992 when he pretty much ended the booking career of Bill Watts. Meaning, if you guys don't know what I mean by that, is he interviewed Hank Aaron and he showed or he read Hank Aaron things that Bill Watts said, which what Bill Watts said was wrong. But anyway, he's without question one of the biggest commentators in wrestling history. Mark Madden was someone... Nate got it. Mark Madden was someone who would suck off whoever was in charge the most to be able to keep his fat ass employed. Mark Madden's style on the headset could be described with one word: garbage.
Definitely.
It's without being said that we are happy to indict Mark Madden into the Hall of Shame. Welcome to the Hall of Shame, Mark Madden.
I recently, because I was up late at night because I couldn't sleep, put on Peacock and put on an older WCW pay-per-view, like, older as in like a year before the show was ended, so like 2000. And Mark Madden was on commentary, and I swear to God, I longed for Bobby Heenan. I longed for Gorilla. Damn, I would have rather heard Lord Alfred Hayes calling that match.
Along for the Duke of Dorchester.
I mean, that guy barely knew anything about wrestling.
Let me
And
tell
when
you
he was,
something. Let me tell you something.
let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something. Archie, you may not go back far enough with us in this show, or maybe, but do you
It's
know
kind of muffled.
It's a little muffled, yeah.
You're muffled.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Am I still muffled?
a little.
Oh, shit.
Sounds like you're in the boiler room with Mankind and Undertaker.
Well, hold on then. We'll, let me smoke this.
Take a break.
Yeah. Yeah, let me smoke the cigarette. I switched to my phone. That's where the
I'll
problem
do the
is.
same thing.
Yeah.
Let's take a break on this fat fuck Mark Madden.
41. Just remember 41 to write down.
This is I've got my phone with me. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll just switch to my phone and go have a cigarette. But apparently my phone's being a prick or something.
Now it's fixed. Now that Aaron left it fixed.
Oh, see, it wasn't my fault. It was his fault.
It was.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this GWF shit.
I don't blame you. Like I said, I would be too.
I have seeked that stuff out on YouTube for years.
I get one or two 5-minute matches, nothing more than that.
Yeah, you don't get full episodes and stuff. And I actually met this guy. Through Chad.
Okay.
Because he posts stuff in Chad's video. Chad has that group, Chad's Video Vault, where he shows the stuff, all the VHSs that he's converting over to DVD.
Yeah.
And this guy is a member of that group. And he had put in that group all this stuff that he had, and that he could just send it to you digitally, like a Google Drive or whatever.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, do you have any global? And he's like, I got a fuck ton of global. And I was like, how much? And he's like, $15. And I'm like, deal.
Damn. Dude, if Global dropped the DVD right now, you wouldn't be able to pay $15 for it.
Right. And this is, like I said, this is enough shit where I decided, because I have a 5 terabyte external hard drive that I keep I keep all of the raw audio and everything from the podcasts.
Right.
Just in case one day do I ever want to go back and do a best of show or something like that.
Right.
And this is so much shit that I had to start transferring it over to that hard drive because it was taking over my computer.
Right.
So I'm pretty fucking excited to dig into it.
I have to say, when I do get a glimpse of a GWF match, it still brings me back to my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it was on after we got off school.
Yep. Yep.
And it was like this.
The odd thing was, this was the stupidity about it. Like you said, it was on when we got off school. I'd get home at 3:15, and ironically, it would start at 3:20. I don't know if a baseball game would overrun or something. You know what I mean? But it would always start as soon as I'd be getting home from school, so I'd be doing my homework while watching it. And then I go to school the next day, and of course, a lot of my friends were wrestling fans. But when I would mention GWF to them, they would look at me and go, "What?" Because they weren't watching that. They were not allowed to watch TV until they finished their homework, and they were hardcore WWF or WCW fans.
so let me switch back. I'm going to close this entirely on my phone, or we'll get feedback.
Okay.
Myself back in. Now I'll go take a leak, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Look. Welcome back, Booker Man.
Thank you.
Do you hate when I call you that?
No, it's
No?
funny.
Okay.
I like that Nate picked up on me saying that Mark Madden is, without a doubt, the biggest commentator.
41, and then we'll do 40. And then I'll just do 47.
To me, though, fucking Woody Allen inducting America. I was like, who's the shittiest father that I can think of that's not Chris Benoit?
Right.
Woody Allen.
So, for those of you that have listened to the show long enough to know of my hatred of this guy, another guy I would rather listen to more than Mark Madden is Rod Trongard. Like, yeah, Rod Trongard, the guy that announced for the AWA.
Oh, okay.
He was terrible.
Vince
I never knew that guy's name.
Vince picked him up for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
and he did like MSG. I think
With Gorilla.
with Gorilla, and then they got rid of him, and it was just Gorilla, and then it'd be like Lore, and sometimes Bobby'd be sprinkled in there. But yeah, Ron Trogard was pretty bad.
Yeah,
but Mark Madden was worse.
Yeah, he wasn't Ed Whalen bad, but he was pretty bad.
I haven't heard enough Ed Whalen to hate him as much as I hate Trongard, but I hate Madden more.
Ed Whalen, one time, I watched a match, and Terry Funk gets slammed into a table by Bruce Hart, and he goes, "Oh!" He just smashed him into that table, and Terry Funk is a ramadama-ding-dong.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Rama-lama ding-dong dandy.
Yeah. But we're not talking about Ed Whalen. We're talking about Ron.
No, we're talking
We're talking about Mark Madden.
No. I thought you were inducting Ron.
No.
You're inducting Mark Madden.
I was making an example of how I would rather listen to Rod Trongard than Mark Madden's fat ass.
Yeah. Let's not kayfabe, brother. I thought we were moving into the next guy. We're still talking about Mark Madden. No. We didn't take a break, and then I got confused.
Mark,
who's the worst, like, who's the worst fat fuck, Mark Madden or David Bixenspan?
Again, I say who?
Mark Madden.
I can't vote. I don't know who David Bixenspan is.
At least David Bix.
David Bixenspan.
At least Bix. knows somewhat what he's talking about and doesn't put himself on camera. And doesn't put himself on camera. And then Mark Madden would have like Mark Madden would like talk about people's appearances and stuff.
Right.
It's like you're one to talk about somebody's
Right.
appearance.
Yeah, like when you did the whole fly, fat ass fly thing.
Yeah. It's like you look like somebody shit on a beanbag chair.
Right.
You're terrible. And this was the guy that WCW was like, oh, let's replace Bobby Heenan.
But
Bobby
let me
Heenan-
tell you, that wasn't WCW. That was Vince Russo and Ed Ferraro wanting to give him a job.
Well, that was WCW. I mean, that was the people
Well,
they
right.
put in charge. So they're like, oh, Bobby Heenan keeps showing up drunk and making fun of our product. So let's
Rightfully
replace
so.
him with Mark Madden. Mark Madden is trash. And the guy just the only commentator, I shouldn't say the only commentator. The only person that I think is worse than Mark Madden would probably be Chris Cruz. But Chris
Good
Cruz
point.
is the shit. Like he wasn't a bad commentator. Chris Cruz is just
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Here's the difference
Right.
between Madden and Cruz. Is Cruz is a piece of shit human, but he was actually a decent commentator.
yeah.
Right.
But Mark Madden was terrible, and I don't see anything redeemable about Mark Madden.
Archie?
Well, excuse me. Well, my next one was talked about a little while ago, in some way, but I'm not going to be inducting Seth Rollins into this. Because Seth Rollins, except for the whole eye for an eye match thing, he was just doing what he was told. And I've been talking about it and hinting about it for the last couple episodes that we've done of other shows as well. I am inducting the entire Mysterio family for that crock of shit storyline with Seth Rollins during the COVID period into the Hall of Shame. Reasons being, Rey Mysterio is at a point in his career that he doesn't need to do things like that anymore. And he can basically be a part-time wrestler. Doesn't have to be full-time anymore.
And I'm not trying to cut you off, but I agree with you because he's established his legacy enough.
Right, exactly.
Where all he has to do is be the fantastic worker that he is.
Right, show up once every couple months, take on one of their bigger cruiserweight stars or something, put the guy over, and he can go back home and then come back again in a couple of months. You know what I mean? Like when they had Austin Aries there, if they would have had Aries versus Ray, that would have been great. Or Neville versus Ray.
And that's where I agree with you on it. You know, some people would say, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, but then I'm going to shit on that. Some people would say, well, they're just doing what they told. It's a storyline. Now, where Archie's point, and I think this is what you're getting at,
yes,
is the reason you can induct Ray is that other than him, he would be the one to allow his family to be a part of it.
Right. Exactly.
So if Vince McMahon pitches, let's get your daughter and your wife and your son involved in this and blah, 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 Ray could say, well, I'm the one under contract, so let's just do something with it.
Exactly. Now, the reason I'm inducting Ray also is this was all done in order to get Dominic a contract. And I'm not going to shit on Dominic more than I already have in past episodes of other shows that we've done. But Dominic Mysterio is still very green to me. He should still be at the Performance Center training or whoever he's going to train with. And he does not deserve to be a World Tag Team Champion.
I really don't.
Doing it, you know,
I really don't see him getting any better.
No. He's like Eric Watts.
Yeah. I mean, he's not Angelo Mosca Jr., but he's definitely in the category of Eric Watts.
Eric
I just don't
Watts,
see
David Flair, you know.
Yeah.
They're doing
and
it
even,
strictly to please Ray.
Even to a certain extent, not as a wrestler, but as an entertainer, David Flair wasn't bad for his role. You know,
he went psycho. He was great.
He played his role well.
You know, but then this
Dominic
also... Go ahead.
Dominic ain't his daddy. That's for sure.
No, he ain't. He's he might be his daddy, but we don't know. We'll get to that.
Eddie Guerrero is your papi.
You know, Aliyah Mysterio was a horrible actress who also couldn't keep kayfabe. She mentioned her her getting engaged while she was doing the storyline with Buddy Murphy, and completely blew that storyline out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
That they canceled it 2 weeks later. And is it Angie Mysterio, his wife?
Yes.
Is worse than Aliyah is as a actress. I mean, they just didn't buy it.
Yeah.
But what makes
bad.
it even worse is that during this shithole of a storyline, Seth Rollins being Seth Rollins, he did the whole, is Aliyah even really your daughter, Ray? And then Rey Mysterio had the goal to say, we've done this before. Are we really going to rehash a storyline? And that's where I totally checked out, because I'm like, wait a second. You know this is all crap. You know this storyline sucks. And you're even going to mention Eddie now. And you're still going to go along with it, which they did for another month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So, for that, the Mysterio family goes into the Hall of Shame.
Booyaka, booyaka. All right.
Hall of
I
Shame.
didn't see any of that. So,
Right, Aaron, you were checked out during that time.
yes.
So my next induction is one of Vince McMahon's little pet projects. Welcome to the We Can't Wrestle Hall of Shame, the World Bodybuilding Federation.
Oh, yes.
The WBF. Gary Stridham. That's the only name. I mean, other than Lex Luger, like the only name I ever remember from that for some reason
Gary
is
Stridham.
the name Gary Stridham.
Yep.
Other than that, what the fuck?
Who might have made, Gary Stridham might have made a hell of a wrestler. He had a look. You know what I mean?
He had a look, but I think he would have wound up like early Batista, where he was so like tight, you know, that he would have just ripped muscles all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But that WBF thing,
no,
it's one of Vince's vanity projects, one of his side projects that even back then in '92, when I was literally just a young wrestling fan sucking at the teat of the WWF.
No,
even I couldn't get into that deal.
So I don't want to see these. I don't want to see these leathery fucking muscle people in their little booty shorts, like flexing and shit. It's like, I don't want to see that. Like, it's like, what was it? Body Stars. That's what they call their fucking show. It was trash, and Vince McMahon should always just stuck to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like anything Vince tries to do that's not professional wrestling, he just fucking fails at.
I agree.
Yeah. I agree. And the other thing about the WBF to me, and I don't know what it was as far as contract. I don't know. You know, there could have been legal things or contract things or whatever. But in April or May of 1992, striking while the iron is hot, if you would have brought Lex Luger in to the WWF right away off of WCW, you know, off of his heel WCW run, and bring him in as a heel, Lex Luger, I've always said Lex Luger would have stood more of a chance in the WWF had he come in just in the blue or green or whatever tights he was wearing in WCW, and Lex Luger.
I agree, but that's why they put him in the WBF, because he left WCW and he had the no compete, so he couldn't compete in wrestling, and that's why they put him on the WBF.
Yeah, but you put him in the WBF, and if anybody was watching it, which we know nobody really was, but you know, they started to like him because he wasn't being a heel on the show. He was being a normal guy. He was being Lex Luger. And then now he debuts as the narcissist. He's not even Lex Luger at first. He's the narcissist. So you gave him a shitty gimmick, which it wasn't a bad gimmick.
That was boring.
He could have been the narcissist Lex Luger. But then you screw it all up. He's going to feud with Mr. Perfect. Maybe he's not. We don't know. And then you're like, you know what? We're going to have him slam Yokozuna. You know, I mean, but that's getting off topic for WBF.
I can induct the way WWF booked Lex Luger, but I didn't have it on my list. But I guess I'll build on it. Like, is he or is he not, when you think about it, the most surprising failure in the WWF?
Yeah.
Like the fat, like with his body and everything, and his body type being Vince McMahon's type, his style. That guy should have been a gigantic star in that company, and he was so mishandled. It always surprises me how Lex Luger was handled by that company, but that's a whole other topic.
I think it was because he wasn't taking enough IcoPro.
Oh yeah, that's what the WBF too, IcoPro.
Steroids in a can
for everybody, for everybody who cares about their body.
What I never understood, though, what I always had, even as a kid, because we all knew about the steroid scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do this kind of show?
Well,
with men who knowingly take steroids to get ready for these competitions.
I'll actually give. I'll talk about another podcast on our show because he actually lets me promote our shows in his Facebook group and stuff. John Arezzi, who does his Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now show, actually talked about it on the show that he was under the impression from the people that he talked to at the time, as far as IcoPro goes, that they legit, like WWF legit, was they created IcoPro as a way to get the guys off the juice. Mm-hmm. Like they created these supplements and stuff and had this doctor work on them and everything as a replacement for steroids, which HGH would become.
Right.
But, originally their intention with IcoPro was actually quite decent, And
I get that. But like if somebody comes around me and says, you're a drug addict, and I start defending myself, but then all you ever see me hanging out with is nothing but drug addicts,
right?
You're going to think I'm a drug addict. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, Vince McMahon, you're a steroid fiend, and you make your wrestlers take steroids. No, I'm not. But here's the show about guys who are on steroids.
Right.
You know what I mean? That I'm coincidentally one of the hosts of.
Yeah, Lex Luger's the Forrest Gump of professional wrestling.
I agree.
He was always there at the right place at the right time.
Just this idiot that just is around when monumental shit's happening around him.
So there you go, the WBF. Unless you guys have anything else on that was my induction, and we can move on to Aaron's next induction.
I think this is my last one, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Get a good one.
It is. It's a good one. Indicting this next person into the Hall of Shame is Dana Warrior, and let's bring out the Renegade.
Nice.
I was expecting the Ultimate Warrior,
yeah, I was,
and too. I got the Renegade.
I was too.
Here is the monologue over the Renegade's video as we see all his accomplishments. Yeah. The only thing worse than the Ultimate Warrior is the Dollar Tree version of the Ultimate Warrior, and that's the Renegade. The Renegade might be the worst professional wrestler of all time, and that's saying something. The Renegade was a complete and utter failure and should be locked away, never heard from again or seen. The Renegade was fucking trash. R.I.P. Rick Wilson.
I always think back to when Jimmy Hart made the Dungeon of Doom and they attacked Renegade and they're wiping the big R off his face that's red and yellow. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy Hart's yelling, "You're not Renegade, you're just Rick.
You're just Rick." That would have been a better gimmick.
Right? Just Rick.
Look here, folks. I'm just Rick. You could have worked that into so he could have been like a Joe Exotic.
have him come out with John Tenta with the non-shaved beard and head that he didn't do. I'm not a shark. I'm not a shark. I'm not an earthquake. I'm not an avalanche. I'm John Tenta. And then he would be the side. And I'm just Rick.
I'm just Rick. That would have worked, man. I'd have dug that gimmick.
Right.
Now here's what I will say to
I know what you're gonna say, and I'm not indicting Rick Wilson.
I know. We're inducting the gimmick. We're inducting that guy is probably a perfectly nice gentleman,
right?
Aspiring professional wrestler, and you know what? He got a contract with the biggest wrestling company in the world at the time. WWF was floundering. WCW, and he got to lift a gimmick kind of because they couldn't get Warrior, so they threw it on him, and it was utter garbage. And he was not ready to be at that level in professional wrestling. And that is one of the few times where I will say, I think that this is getting too deep, but whatever. What happened with his career probably led to his demise.
It did.
Because you're putting a rocket on this guy that isn't ready for it. And the meteoric fall that he had, I'm sure affected his self-esteem.
Yeah.
Well,
shit like that.
To go from beating Arn Anderson for the World Television title, and he actually had a decent run with the title because he was defending it on a semi-weekly basis.
But he never had a good match.
Well, no,
I mean,
but
yeah, they wanted him to go out and beat Arn. Talking about that, they were like, oh, we're gonna go out there and Arn, Flair said that, and I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but they basically wanted him to go out there and squash Arn, and Arn was like, or I shouldn't say squash him, but Arn was like, I can't get anything out of this guy. And Bischoff was like, well, just go out there and do it in 30 seconds. And then they did it, and it was terrible. And Bischoff was like, we should have done it in 3 seconds. And Flair was like, you shouldn't have done it at all.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So, yes, the Renegade gimmick and the whole thing surrounding it and every way it was booked definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Shame for sure. Oof. Archie?
My last inductee will be being inducted by a very special guest, the immortal 2-time Hall of Famer himself, Hulk Hogan.
All right, brother.
And the reason that he's being inducted by Hulk Hogan is because this piece of shit turned on Hulk Hogan, not in the wrestling business, but outside of it. Hulk Hogan made his radio station famous. Hulk Hogan brought him into TNA with him and actually allowed him to be an on-screen character. And I'm going to do my best Hulk Hogan voice for this one. Well, let me tell you something, brother. When I bring you into the wrestling business and I give you the world on a silver platter, and then you offer me to bed your wife and video record it without my knowledge, you deserve to be in the Hall of Shame. So for that, Bubba the Love Sponge is being inducted into the We Can't Wrestle Hall of Shame.
Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yes. He has other acts against other wrestlers against him as well.
Mm-hmm.
He is the reason that Awesome Kong was fired from TNA during his run because he said some very racist statements to her, and she beat the crap out of him. And because of that,
she should
have. And he went to Dixie and said, if you don't fire her, I'm taking Hogan and I'm out of here. Which Hogan backed him up, and she was fired. He tried to make the Nasty Boys relevant in 2010, which shouldn't have happened. And he was just an all-around piece of shit on TV, let alone in person. So
yeah, I haven't heard a lot of good about the guy. And another thing that that I will say about him is he's not even his radio show isn't even good.
No.
I don't understand why he ever got to the popularity that he did.
Because he befriended Hogan.
Yeah.
He gave Hogan a platform to speak on.
Yeah,
Hogan
I mean,
business.
I have heard his radio show, because it's fucking awful. It's awful.
Yeah,
Aaron said earlier something about the Renegade being the Dollar Tree version of the Ultimate Warrior. Bubba the Love Sponge is the Dollar Tree version of Howard Stern.
Right.
Because when it was Stern versus Mancow, Mancow at funny. Times, Mancow was actually funny. Yes.
Right.
Okay, I'll say this about Howard Stern. I've never been a Howard Stern fan. Okay. I get why people like him, but I don't like the guy.
I understand.
And I Arch, I know like over like up in your region of the country or whatever, he was huge. I just was never a fan of Howard Stern. I thought Mancow was really funny, but
Right.
I've never like Mancow was funnier than Stern because like his bits were funnier. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he had
Right.
good comedy bits and stuff. But
Stern was only funny when he brought on a porn star and made her do something stupid. And that
Yeah.
was, that got old after about a year.
yeah, Stern's like a one trick pony in my
Yeah.
opinion. But like even as a kid, like even as like a juvenile with like a sophomore sense of humor, I never thought Stern was that good. And I know Nate was a fan of him, but I thought Stern was dumb. But
I like Stern.
I know you do. But Mancow was funny because like his prank calls were great. Like
Right.
he not to get off on a tangent, but Mancow called the restaurant that the guy that OJ killed,
Ron Goldman.
Ron Goldman. Like he called that and was like, "Hey, I left my glasses there. Somebody drop them off." Like
So bad.
like that is subtly fucking like there wasn't more to the joke. It was just we're gonna call him and say, "Hey, I left my glasses there. Can somebody drop them off?" And the lady on the phone was just like, "Fuck you," and like hung out. Like it was super great. But anyway, Bubba the Love Sponge. I've never heard really anything that guy ever did that was entertaining.
You're not
Nope.
missing anything, yeah.
Yeah. You've never heard anything he did that was entertaining because he's never done anything entertaining. So.
Right.
But yeah, definitely Archie. I would say that POS deserves to be in the Hall of Shame. Welcome to the Hall of Shame.
Bubba the Love Sponge.
Love Sponge.
You
I guess
up with Joe Gomez afterwards.
Yeah.
I guess I get to round us out here on this
Yes.
year's edition.
Well, it is your
Make
show.
it good.
And mine is I think it's good.
All right,
Because
Steve,
I think
man,
we're
let's
all
hear it.
I think we're all going to agree that this is some real shameful wrestling shit. The heel turn in 1998 and subsequent joining of the Wolf Pack of Sting.
Oh, that was terrible.
Tomato face Sting is terrible.
Yeah.
It was, you had literally, they literally had, let's not, okay, you got your Ric Flair, you got your Dusty Rhodes. I mean, there's the history of WCW. Now, I'm going to talk about the NWA, folks. I'm talking about WCW from when Ted Turner bought it in '88. Sting was the biggest babyface, the most over,
WCW.
and especially at this time.
Not to
Like,
cut
and
you off for a second.
it starts at Starrcade,
Right.
when they fucked up the whole deal with the main event.
Oh, you mean Brett took a hissy fit and decided to restart the match for no reason, even though there was no problem?
Because that match should have ended with Sting pinning Hulk Hogan in the center of the ring and becoming the champion. There should have been no controversy. The bullshit started right there, and it's just imagine how different things would have been had they kept that momentum going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like Sting and I know the NWO was great and everybody loved it and everything like that. But when Sting beat Hogan, that should have been the end of the NWO.
Yes. I mean, you could have done a storyline where they broke up. You know what I mean, for 6 months. But you're right. That should have been the beginning of the end, and it should have been the NWO should have been done by that June.
And you could even had an end. Okay, like Hogan loses, and then Hogan leaves. Okay, for like 6 months, and fucking Terry Borella's not going to be mad about that. He's still getting fucking paid.
You're right.
Yeah.
He's still going to be able to fucking bang
He did it
Thunder-
before.
the beach
do
and make fucking
do Thunder in Paradise
yeah,
or
make
whatever.
his shitty movies and
He
bang.
did
bitches
it
on the
before
beach.
Bash to the Beach when he came out and joined the NWO anyway. He was going for 5 months then. Why
Yeah.
couldn't he do it now?
Yeah, and
You
then
know?
you could even brought him back later and fucking turned him again if you wanted to.
Right.
Mhm.
And Nash and Hall could have still been the fucking outsiders or whatever.
Right.
And
Or
I
they
know,
could have been the Wolf Pack.
yeah, they could
Not
have been.
NWO Wolf Pack, but they could have been
it's
the
like,
Wolf Pack.
yeah, we're
Right.
the Wolf Pack, and we got Conan with us because he's cool.
Mhm.
We got Waltman with us, or what? I know Waltman left, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Like he could have still done that, but and I know you're not indicting the NWO, you're indicting fucking Tomato Face Sting.
But yeah, I'm inducting that. But I'm inducting that whole story, like the way they fucked that whole thing up with Sting.
No, it was bad. It was bad.
He never should. Sting never should have quote unquote turned. You know, I know everybody in that whole thing. That's another thing that's fucked up about it is everybody in that whole thing is shades of gray. Who's a face? Who's a heel? Sting never should. He never should join the NWO.
Okay, you have the NWO.
Never.
You have the NWO at its core. Hogan, Nash, Hall. Nash breaks off and makes his own red and black wolf pack. Okay, great. Now you've got 3 companies battling in, kayfabe. NWO, Wolfpack, and WCW. Hogan's the forefront of the NWO. Nash is Wolfpack. So who was the forefront of WCW then? Because they had Luger and Sting, who were Mr. WCW.
Exactly, and that's my point is whether red and black, white and black, whatever, Sting never should have put on an NWO shirt.
Here was
ever.
the stupidity. The night that he joined, when he took off his jacket, he was wearing the white shirt. Tony Schiavone's like, "Oh no, it finally happened. He joined the NWO." Right?
Mhm.
Beats up Hogan and the Giant, slams the Giant, which for Sting being a little bit smaller than Hogan and Goldberg, Sting slamming the Giant was a big moment then. Rips off the shirt, and he's got the red and black, and then Schiavone starts shrieking like a little girl. He's in the wolf pack. He's got the red and the black on. I'm like, why are you cheering right now? It's still the NWO. He's not in WCW anymore. Basically, he said, "Screw you. I'm joining another group."
Mhm.
Why are we celebrating this?
Well, and that is exactly why any intelligent person that studies the history of wrestling and actually studies it as an art and as a business, regardless of what happened in 98, because, granted, the business itself for WCW really took the sharp turn down in 99.
Right.
But wrestling companies don't die overnight unless you're world class. But they don't die overnight. But the 98 WCW kind of like they essentially lived off of their own ether, through
Right.
Goldberg and all that. Like they lived off of the fact that they were so big for a year and a half. But let's be honest, that shit with Sting, at the end of the Starrcade 97 and then into his heel turn, that's really the beginning of the downfall, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Goldberg comes along and it's Goldberg, but he also his popularity kind of piggybacked off the fact that people were still watching, even though they had already kind of lost. You're watching out of habit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I have to indict the Sting, whatever you want to call it, the heel turn, the joining, whatever it is. Sting never should have been in the NWO.
No,
He never should have had one of those shirts on. It was stupid, and it was counterproductive.
Nate, what made it worse was he was only in the NWO Wolfpack for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
They did all of that for a 2-month pop, because 2 months later, Nash beat Goldberg for the world title, and then they gave it right back to Hogan with the finger poke of doom. Why would you do that then? Because we knew Sting wasn't going to join the white and black NWO because he hated Hogan, and you put Nash, Luger, and Macho Man right back in the regular. And oh no, Macho Man wasn't there. I'm sorry, but Nash and Luger joined the regular NWO again. So why would we do this? Who was this helping exactly?
So, well, it's good to hear that. It sounds like you guys both agree with me. Aaron, did you have anything else on that?
It was stupid.
Dynamite drop it, Donnie.
And it's like, I don't know, Sting and Flair, and I know Flair never joined, but those should have
Oh
been
God, I'm glad that never happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, those should have been the two guys that never joined.
He technically joined in WWE.
Flair?
Well, I mean, if you remember when he appointed Booker T a member of the NWO, they were kind of teasing it, but then they never went anywhere with it.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because that Vince versus Flair shit fell apart
Right.
when Austin left.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it should have, and I know Flair never joined, but it should have always been like Sting and Ric Flair. Like, if you're going to keep the NWO going, then the two guys that should always be like, no, these are trash. These people are trash. Should have been like, and I'll even sprinkle Arn in there. It should have always been like Sting, Ric Flair, and Arn Anderson.
Right.
Yeah.
Going against the NWO. I would have rather, like, they always were like, oh, DDP never joined the NWO. It's like, I would have rather fucking DDP join the NWO.
Well, and him joining the NWO would have made more sense because he was friends with Nash and Hall.
Yeah.
Right. He had a story with them. But see, here's the other thing, the other shoe that drops. When you look at the NWO as a whole, except for the NWO Japan members, almost every member of the NWO was in the WWF at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Conan was Max Moon. VK Wall Street, Big Bubba, you know what I mean? Except for Scott Norton and Buff Bagwell, everybody was in the WWF, so they were WWF wrestlers joining a rival faction to go against WCW. Who was never in the NWO? Ric Flair should have never been in the NWO. Ric Flair, Sting, Arn Anderson, Luger. You know what I mean?
Right.
You keep your homegrown talent to your company because you made them, not who the NWO was supposed to be. You know. But it is what it is.
It is what it is, and that is the 2021 class of the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Shame.
Woohoo!
As always.
Thanks for listening with us.
Yes.
Everybody's standing up and applauding. I see all the dignitaries out there. I see Golga.
Why?
There's Golga. He's standing up, clapping.
Why is everybody holding an Aaron's list as the best sign?
Because it's true.
Damn it.
Oh, there's Ricky Steamboat in his dragon outfit. See him out there.
Oh, Glenn Jacobs showed up in a dentist uniform.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah,
Glenn
but he's
Jacobs.
wearing his diesel wig. I think he's got too many gimmicks going on at once.
Yes. Oh, I see out there, Freddie Joe Floyd and
TL Hopper.
TL Hopper and that fat fuck PN News. He's out there.
Look at that. Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega just winked at me knowing that I'm waiting for him to retire to make him the biggest inductee in history. Ronnie Garvin is sitting right in there next to him.
Oh, God.
Don't put down the goddamn good name of Ronnie Garvin.
Yeah, you leave hands of
You know what's
Stone alone.
funny? You know what's funny? I'm never going to induct Ronnie Garvin into the Hall of Shame. And you know why?
He's a
Why?
badass little sawed-off motherfucker. That's why.
Here's why. And that's the thing, folks, that I want to accentuate here. A lot of times in the Hall of Shame, we're not crapping on the worker, we're not crapping on the person. Sometimes we're crapping on the worker and the person, like Buck Zumhoff.
Right.
But the reason that a guy like Ronnie Garvin, for me, would never get into our Hall of Shame, as a matter of fact, as time goes on, I would be more likely, even though I'm not a fan, to induct him into our Hall of Fame. Because I'm not a fan of Ronnie Garvin as a wrestler.
Right.
But I can watch Ronnie Garvin and see why he is historically significant, why he was over, what he did that got, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not I'm not
guy out with his right and then teabag him.
But do you see what I'm saying though, Aaron? Like, yeah. I'm not going to sit down and watch a bunch of Ronnie Garvin matches, but I can see why someone would say, there's a difference between crap and just something you don't like. You know what I mean?
Ronnie Garvin never did anything that was insulting to the
No.
No.
And he's a great pro wrestler. He's
And
just
he
he was never my cup of tea.
He's not your cup of tea.
Was it the blonde buzz cut or the Hands of Stone that you didn't like?
No, and you know what? It's also because, and another reason I would say that, I was never a fan of watching him work, but that's just me. I can totally watch Ronnie Garvin and see why other people are like, this dude's the fucking shit. But another thing I will say is, and Aaron knows this, the one thing I will always acquiesce about Ronnie Garvin is I love watching him and Randy Savage in ICW back in like fucking 70 whatever, early 80s or whatever. Like, that's my favorite Ronnie Garvin stuff because watching him work with Savage was so good. So yeah, that was just a little clarification there of what this Hall of Shame is about. It's not about necessarily even stuff we personally don't like. It's stuff we look at and go, yeah, that was garbage.
Right.
So guys, anything you want to say before we sign off here this week on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, the 2021 Hall of Shame in the books?
I think I'm good.
I can't think of anything.
Well, I can. If you're not listening, you need to listen to Reliving the Extreme, one of the other podcasts here in the We Can't Wrestle podcast and Maxing Out Media not Hall of Shame. No, not the Hall of Shame. Family. This week, actually, we had ECW original, literally original, Tommy Cairo on the show. There is an ice cream truck involved. Okay.
Ooh.
Listen to the show. There is an ice cream truck. There is Chad Austin and Tommy Cairo talking about backstage back in the day in ECW. There is Tommy Cairo completely shitting on Paul Heyman. There is all kinds of great stuff in our conversation with Tommy. So check that out. And also, of course, my new baby
on Sami Callihan.
Oh yeah.
Just randomly just shit on Sami Callihan. It was
yes,
great.
he did. So that, and please do check out WrestleNet Radio. Aaron's got a show on there. Archie's got a show on there.
Yep.
There are more shows coming on there. I've actually worked out some deals with some other wrestling podcasters to provide their shows to the radio station. So stay tuned for that. That's it. We're going to sign off. Thank you for joining us on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Because it's the Hall of Shame, your host is drunk, because that's what I do during this show. And we will see you next time around for more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Again, check out WrestleNet Radio. A lot of great content on there, especially with us. We're doing a lot of stuff on there that you can't hear on this podcast.
I'm doing fantastic work.
It's the best work Aaron has ever done.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time around on the We Can't Wrestle podcast.